stay with us the whole time and watch the entire lesson, but very thankful because it is so relevant to us daily living and such a challenge as we are walking by faith because, well, when we become overwhelmed, we become short-sighted. And like Peter said, you can become short-sighted even to blindness. So being overwhelmed can take us to a place that we don't want. All right, let me see if this will. No walking. All right. We are in the text of Luke 8:10, verse 38 through 47. And, we have not run around on other texts or studies because we're going to unpack this verse and this text. And what would you think that the Lord would have us to walk away with in this lesson? It's going to be familiar to all of us that are gathered here because it simply is addressing whom? Anybody read the lesson? Who's it involve? Mary and Martha. And there was a difference in that. If I was going to subtitle the lesson, it just might be, and we're talking about being overwhelmed, why are you so distracted? Why are you so distracted? Now, we get to the end of the class and we get to ask again that question about what we wrote down at the beginning that overwhelms us, or maybe in the sense that we've been talking, has overwhelmed us. In other words, there are chronic conditions that exist that are overwhelming. Now, I don't want to I'm sorry to bring up people that are 80 to 100 years old, but it's just an illustration that I want you to understand. If you cannot learn to live under the oppression of your physical infirmity, you're going to be one miserable person. And you're going to get more miserable as your days go along. Now, the Bible challenges us to outward man perishing, inward man being renewed. Why is it then some people crash and burn when things go wrong? And as we have already studied, Philippians 4, what's the great challenge from Philippians, the 4th chapter? Think on something else. Think on something else. This just, every one of these lessons, what's the guy's last name that put this together? Well, I'll put it out there next time, but very good assembly of lessons. Each one are interconnected, and obviously when we're talking about this and the text, each one has a different little nuance to what's going on in the overwhelmed aspect of it, because who was overwhelmed well, let's go back and read it. Let's just read it, and then we'll talk about it. My slide went dark. What? Well, I'll read the text then. My internet not working.
It's on the screen. We can read it to you.
Oh, it did come back. This is not working. I'm looking at something that wasn't giving me what you're looking for. Yeah, y'all could read it to me here. I just got disconnected then. It'll come back maybe, or I got lost. Anyway, Now, as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house, and she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving, and she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me alone to serve? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered and said, Martha, 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 you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Martha has chosen the good portion, which will not be taken from her. So, was there anything inherently wrong with Martha's concern?
No, but she was more concerned with serving others and listening to Jesus' word.
Yeah, she had her responsibilities that she was going to have to meet. Is this thing? Yeah, it is. My eyes are not working here, but this is, so that's good. Good and bad, I'll have to look.
She's just trying to be a good hostess.
So, that's what, okay, so she, don't you feel like she kind of got a bad rap?
Not necessarily, because she was setting her mind on worldly things, things of this earth, as opposed to spiritual things. So, from that standpoint, I don't think so.
So, my mama during all them holidays when we was up there, and she was running around, helicopter, all over that house, and getting our food and getting our refills and getting that. And Dad was like, Betty, you won't come in here and eat? And she would take care of every one of us, and then she'd have her meal. And so she spent a lot of time, maybe like Martha, but you know what? It was not that she was overly concerned about that. I'm just illustrating how many people can get. But what if it happens like this? When I was young, I remember my neighbor's grandmother staying with them, and she was very able. And when it came time for church, she had to stay home and prepare the food for when everybody got home. Now, the hard part about this particular class is when we start making application. Because we're talking about being distracted, and why are you so distracted? Our prayer and our reading is going to help us in this way. Lord, help us to listen rather than to be distracted. So imagine the picture of the Lord coming into your home. And He is the way, the truth, and the life. But what is a woman in biblical picture of the house? What is she supposed to do with the house?
She's the keeper of the house. She's a caretaker.
Manage the house. So guess what? When we in Africa and I'm heading to somebody's house and they know I'm coming, guess what's going on?
Preparation.
Not small. Now, when I got there, though, most every time, everybody was sitting right there, and we had a Bible study. Occasionally, though, there would be a couple outside. An opportunity to ask, where's everybody at? Because of the nature, but I'm asking because it seems like she's getting a little bit of a bad rap. She's responsible for the household. She's got to manage the house. And she felt that this was her part. So, let's just go to the questions, and I think they'll kind of help us to unfold. Explain the scene. Why was Martha distracted? Is her distraction reasonable? And explain.
She was being hospitable. This one was a little hard for me because I'm like a total Martha when it comes to that. And I'm having company over. I'm not enjoying their company. I'm serving them.
So you're telling me,
Of their physical needs.
so Corey, it's not business as usual when guests are coming, is that what I'm understanding? And so that, and it is, I think everybody's house checks off with that. That's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. What makes the nature of this entire thing lean in the wrong way? Because what we see is that there were many things for which she was responsible. Many things, just like you. Now, I think it might be, were they reasonable? And the answer is yes. Those were her obligations. So none of the things in and of themselves were remotely wrong. This comes down to how we prioritize. And not, now let me back up before I say that, because everybody runs into their list. You got to back up. You got to get your list rechecked. Jesus is coming over. What you thinking about?
She's thinking about passing out drinks and making
Everybody got what you want? No, it is.
the house
The,
has got to be clean. And
the preacher is teaching.
She may have also been under the expectation, she may have expected Mary to lend a hand. And
So-
she may have been feeling really annoyed with Mary for not helping.
So,
The question is that reasonable? I don't know if it's reasonable or not, but I sure get it.
do you think? That's right. See, I sure do get it, and that's what I'm saying. Is she getting a bad rap? Should Mary have been involved? Go ahead.
It seems Jesus was always taking opportunities to teach.
Yes.
And we know that he taught way more than what's recorded. And it seems that this was an opportunity that he could take to help people focus in on what truly was the important thing.
Right.
I don't think that he was necessarily telling Martha, you're a bad person for doing this, because hospitality is expected.
Correct.
And it is encouraged. And I don't think that he was telling her, don't do this, but just think about, like you were saying, the priorities. Think about and taking this opportunity as a teaching lesson, as a way of letting everybody there understand that they needed to focus in on the most important thing, which was him, because he wasn't going to be there all long
Yep.
to begin with, and take advantage of the opportunity that he had.
well,
So,
Martha thought she was being, the way that I saw it, that she thought she was serving the Lord by doing these.
was she?
And she was.
No, what? Okay, that's what I'm trying to get. Are we getting a bad rap here? Because we're talking about how we get ourselves overwhelmed. Remember, this class is about how we get ourselves overwhelmed. And this is maybe not a lesson in somebody was overtly right and overtly wrong. It was somebody chose something better. And the overwhelmed aspect, I just circled it, was what gets us. That's when I get overwhelmed. If I'm at a job, and we got 3 guys, and we're supposed to go take care of the floor, do this and do that, and I go out there and I'm taking care of this, taking care of that, and I look up, he's over there doing this, he's over there doing that, and then I look back in the recliner department, and the other guy's back there in his recliner. Hey, wait a minute. And he's like, time out. take a break and know what you need to do. Don't be controlled by what somebody else is doing. And I think in this context, he not only uses that, analyses, if you might say, but that he also, see if I can get this to go back. There it is. So, Martha's saying, hey, she's not pulling her weight. And Jesus said, you need to reevaluate how you made that judgment. And then, I guess, for our class, and, with the limitation of this particular text, it's not that long. What I want to ask, when he says, she was anxious and troubled about many things, and the question is, do you feel like Martha in your life? We've already had a few discussions, but, I put in here audience participation. Because it's asking you a question, do you feel like Martha in your life? Is there any of us that don't?
A lot of us, especially me, it's my personality, I make things way more complicated than they have to be, and I focus on the little trivial things instead of looking at the big picture. And she got the way that I'm reading it is that she got herself worked up because she had all this stuff to do when it didn't have to be that difficult.
Okay. It did. In fact, it said, the text says that Martha was distracted. And I think that if we're going to take some, our takeaways in when we are overwhelmed is that she got busy. And then one thing got out of place. You understand how that works, right? In work or anything else. You get busy and you're going from one thing to the other, and then you encounter some injustice or things aren't going the way that you anticipate that they should. And then what happens? Well, I'm distracted. Not with the things I'm responsible for now, but what somebody else isn't doing. How many of us are overwhelmed by what someone else is not doing?
Every day.
What is the lesson here?
Stay in your lane.
Everything's good. There's nothing wrong. It was manufactured in her mind because she was distracted about many things. Had she continued at it, I don't know that Jesus would have said, hey, quit serving everybody and sit down. He might have let her go about and serve everyone, but she stopped, interrupted him, and said, look, I'm having to do all this by myself, and she's not helping me because she's sitting here listening to you. And that's not fair. And she goes, well, I'm not taking away from her what she chose to do because she wants to sit and learn the Word. She had the right priority. And Jesus called her out because the reason for that behavior, we've just said, is she getting a bad rap? And we kind of admitted, well, yeah. Mary wasn't pulling her weight. And so she called her out. But Jesus said, you are anxious about many things. In other words, the reason she made that kind of a response was not because of just that circumstance. But I think, as was stated at the very beginning, she had too much on her plate. And when she was overwhelmed by the amount that she had on her plate and it got to be too much, she criticized others. Then it became their fault. They're not doing what they should. And how many of us weigh our daily actions against those that don't do? And we take care of our business, and then you look at those that don't do it, and it affects your disposition, your mind, your mood.
Turns you completely sour.
Against whom? How can you say that you love God, but you don't love your brother? It breaks down even the most minute acts of judgment that would register against another who's put their priorities where they belong, even when they don't appear where you want them to belong. Mary wasn't doing the thing that Martha wanted her to do, but what she was doing was not wrong. And actually, next question, what did Jesus say the solution for Martha? And Mary apparently understood. What was the necessary thing?
Choosing the good part, which is
Yeah.
being a teacher too and following his teachings, having an attitude of worship and meditation, listening with an open mind and heart to Jesus' words.
What is best? You know, that really is kind of a summation of how we make judgments about anything we do in our life.
I think culturally back then too, the women, that's what their job was strictly to serve. We don't know how many other women were in this, group, you know?
Yeah.
If any of the other women were sitting and listening, and if truly Martha was the only woman doing what society, you know, the role that she had on her at that time,
Yeah.
you know, it says she was distracted. What's it mean to be distracted? Your focus is not where it should be.
That's it. That's it.
And so she was focused, I think, more on the earthly and the roles that had been given to them and what they were supposed to be doing. And like Zinda said, Jesus was trying to show her, this one right here, you're not gonna have me forever. I won't be with you forever. And this is what matters, the eternal, the not earthly things are where your focus should be.
Yeah. So it gets down to, and it does actually make the statement about Mary has chosen. Mary had a decision. So now we understand what you just were elaborating on, and that is that Martha also had a choice. Let the cobwebs keep. We're going to eat late today. You know, I mean, there can be a million things that could have been said. And in most of those environments like that, then I can say that it was tending to gathering and putting foods together, whether it be for the tea or whatever it is that was customary in that particular minute. But that is what you witness when you go to the third world country and you have a similar environment. You walk in and somebody's at a fire, open fire outside, and they're cooking and preparing, and you know, and it's also concerning when you start seeing them occupied while missing spiritual opportunities to learn. So it is, you know, do the better thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My Bible is referring me to John 4:24, that Jesus makes this statement to the people who were looking to him after he had fed the multitudes. They
Right.
chased him down looking for more food, and he said, "Do not labor for the food which perishes, but for the food which endures to everlasting life."
Yeah, that's a perfect analogy that Mary was focused on the food of everlasting life, and Martha was worried about everybody getting their next meal. And like we would say, it's okay. You can stop, sit down, and enjoy your company. How does choosing the one necessary thing deal with anxieties and distractions? So remember, everything we've been doing is outcome-based education. We went into it with something that we wrote at the bottom of our page in the first lesson that overwhelms or overwhelmed us, those things we work on. How are we going to think through it? How are we going to manage? How does one necessary thing help us deal with anxieties and distractions?
You know you're doing the right thing, so that would be calming and not cause you anxiety.
You got one thing. I mean, what does Jesus say in Matthew the 6th chapter? Right. You just don't add up all the things that you could worry about. These things the Gentiles do concern themselves with. And we, in our flesh, we make sure that we've got something to eat. But the thing that we elevate in importance in our minds in a constant is that those things are secondary to what God would have me to do. And it truly becomes our life focus. It's just how that we focus our lives. So let's just say this. Tomorrow morning, anybody got a list of things that they got to take care of tomorrow? Yeah. I think pretty much everybody's got something they got to take care of. You got a list. So when your feet hit the floor, are you going to set aside time to pray or read or meditate or think about the Word of God or about your day and your relationship with Him? Because we get busy in our lives so often, and whether it be physical pain or mental anguish or not sleeping well, so many things go into how we feel that it distracts us from the thing that we have to maintain focus on. That's why we come together on midweek Bible study. It's just to help us. And that's why you're thankful that so many people are utilizing it to help you. Because it's a matter of rethinking all of this. That this mechanism that God has given us, we're created in His image. And if the truth is, in God, that this outward man is perishing, everyone will confirm that's beyond 50 years of age. Everyone can understand it about 52, 57, 63, 67, 72, whatever it is. You know the markings. The outward man perishing. The inward man is being renewed day by day. What we see in a general tendency through the world is not a renewal of the inward man, but a depression within the inward man because his outward man is not experiencing the things that he would like to experience. And so we become completely disoriented, completely distracted. If an individual enters the realm of disability, and the only thing that they ever consider or think about moving forward is the thing that they can no longer do, and they're distracted in their lives by that one thing that they can no longer do, and all they do is think every day about that one thing that they used to do that they can no longer do. what occurs in the mind and the life of that individual.
Negative mindset, anxiety, frustration, they let all their joy go.
Everything is in the past. Or from the past, and is occupying the present. And guess what? Like put on my Facebook page, I think it was Ecclesiastes 7. Better to be patient in spirit than proud. And don't say in your heart, why were the former days better than these? You do not inquire wisely concerning this. And so it's all about moving forward. And if our minds become stagnant in this life and stationary, then we're going to open ourselves up to nothing but disappointment. Because guess what we can always guarantee is going to occur? Change. Change. In fact, Jesus said, we will all be changed. And Romans 8 says that our body yearns, and that so that gives you an idea of oppression or how that it handles, and it says we yearn within ourselves. But you know what? We yearn waiting for the adoption, the redemption of our body. So now we've got a relationship. We think beyond where we're at in this dire, desperate circumstance of life. Because it's not the end. And yes, we have a lot of things to deal with, but at the end of the day, we look back on that thing that got us out of focus. Whatever you wrote down, that thing that you were anxious or overwhelmed by, what areas does Jesus address with it when it comes to anxiety? What are some of the practical solutions that you've learned in this lesson? Other things can wait? What does it say about our relationship with others and our evaluation of their performance?
Have mercy and grace.
Mercy, grace, stay focused on the right thing for yourself. You focus on the things that you should focus on. What areas does Jesus say, if a thing is within my choosing, I must choose wisely? Jesus answered, verse 41, and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried about and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. So she was responsible for all those things that we calculate that we're responsible for. But we have to make the discerning condition of our mind. What do you have to have, and what do you need to do? What do you think you need versus what one thing is needed? And that's where we can have our focus. If I have the ability to make the choice, I must choose wisely. And what area does Jesus address when it comes to anxiety? What practice in the solution that is overwhelmed? We become overwhelmed with responsibilities. And I put in this, in 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 8, while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds the promise of the present life and also of the life to come. So I hope there's been some practical applications that you've learned from this. What is God teaching us about stress and anxiety from the Scripture? And I guess the real question becomes, what can you do differently when stress and worry come upon you? What can we do differently?
You need to stop listening to the noise inside. You need to refocus on God's words, realizing that this world is not our home, and these small matters will not matter. Quit looking for a speck in your brother's eye and worry about the log in your own eye. Yeah, Tracy on Monday, I have to brag on her, when we had a Bible study, she made such an excellent point that I had to share it with my coworkers today. And we're talking about prayer, you know, and how we should pray and stuff. But when we're praying with God, that doesn't leave the doorway when we're conversing with Him on a regular basis, continuously. That doesn't leave the door open for Satan to come in because we're in conversation with God.
Yeah.
So the devil cannot attack us at that time.
Doesn't want to have it, well, and you're always prepared. And anxiety has a way of pushing God out and replacing it with anxious thoughts. And that's when all the warnings that we're given from Jesus. And if you think about this, as you get into, if you are fortunate to live into your old age, and many of the lust of the flesh and the lusts of the eyes and the pride of life are going to be taken, you're going to have one thing left: bitterness, anger. You better get a handle on that, or you'll find yourself in a place where you think God has forgotten about you, when He's told you all about how He's preparing everything for you. The outward man, don't worry about it. The inward man, get ready. We're going home. So, our prayer, Psalm 139:23, read it with me. That is, search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. God does know. And God does answer our prayers. And God does bring us the comfort that we need, knowing the promises that He's made us. We will endure. We will get through this and every other test, every other trial, every other problem, and get to our eternal home. Thank you, and pray that you have a blessed evening, and we'll see you a little later.